ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। When the powerful waves of Western education and civilization came to India and began to bring about a radical change in people's spiritual and social outlook, every talented man of this country began to look for harmony between the culture and civilization of the East and those of the West. Just as in the province of Bengal, Rajaram Mohan Roy Maharshi, Devendranath, Brahmananda Keshav, and others devoted their lives for that purpose. Even so, in other parts of the country too, many great souls are known to have appeared and carried on the same work, but none of them could perfectly tackle it before the advent of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna duly went through the disciplines of all the religions of India in his own life and attaining to the results of the spiritual practices prescribed by each of them showed that the religion of this country was not the cause of its degradation and that the cause must be sought elsewhere. He showed also that society, manners, customs, in short, the culture and civilization of India had their basis in religion, that it had brought glory and prosperity to this country in the past, that the same life giving religion still exists undecayed, and that we could again successfully pilot our national ship if only we could base all our efforts and endeavors on it and nothing else. Living the life of living the ideal life himself, the master showed further how religion could broaden the outlook of man. Next, he transmitted the liberalizing power of that religion to his disciples, especially to Swami Vivekananda, who were till then inspired by Western ideals and ideas, taught them how to perform all actions in the world as ancillary to religion, and thus gave a wonderful solution for the above mentioned intricate problems of India. Just as he established spiritual harmony among the religions of the world by demonstrating the truth of them all by actually following the spiritual practices advocated by them, he had stopped the wranglings between the various sects of Hinduism by following the orthodox practices of each of them and demonstrating their perfection in himself. He had thereby demonstrated to us of the true basis of our nationality in the past and what they should be in the future. Even though Keshav Chandra Sen failed to understand the full implication of Sri Ramakrishna's ideals, Sri Ramakrishna had a wonderful love for him, which we could understand from his reaction to Keshav's death in 1884. Sri Ramakrishna said, I could not leave my bed for 3 days when I got the news that Keshav Chandra Sen had given up his body. It seemed as if a limb of mine was paralyzed. We shall bring this appendix to a close by mentioning another event which happened when he met Keshav Chandra Sen for the first time. Sri Ramakrishna then had a desire to witness the all bewitching ambulatory Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, whatever desire Sri Ramakrishna had, Divine Mother would fulfill. So, what was the desire of Sri Ramakrishna? Sri Ramakrishna then had a desire to witness the all bewitching ambulatory Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You know, there is a story in the part of India where there is intense dedication to the following of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his teachings. There, I have heard the story that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his group used to go on the street singing the name of Lord Hari with the drums and cymbals and singing Harinam Sankirtan, the, the joy, the bewitching force of that Sankirtan would intoxicate people, the hearers, the onlookers, the people who were in the houses were mesmerized, just like when the Pied Piper would blow his pipe and make the tune, beautiful tune. All the children were mesmerized, the rats were mesmerized like that. Everyone who heard that Sankirtan would be bewitched by that sound to such an extent that this is a story, and also it has been depicted in many ways, that they would be intoxicated by the Harinam Sankirtan. It so happened once the mother of a child who was cutting vegetables, she had a very small baby by her side. She got so much intoxicated by that Sankirtan while cutting the vegetable. Instead of cutting the vegetable, she forgot everything and cut her own baby and cooked it. And after that, when she came out of the intoxication, then she came to know and came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu crying. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made a miracle and brought her baby back. That was a different thing. But what I was going to tell was, it would be so bewitching, mesmerizing, the singing of the Lord, Harinam Sankirtan, would create such an intoxication, such joy, that people would be so much involved in that. So, Sri Ramakrishna had a desire to witness the all bewitching ambulatory Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Divine Mother, as is a wont, had to fulfill the desire of Sri Ramakrishna. So she fulfilled that desire by his office of Sri Ramakrishna by showing to him in the way described below. Standing outside his room, Sri Ramakrishna saw wonderful waves of Sankirtan coming towards him from the direction of the Panchavati, proceeding towards the main gate of the Dakshineshwar garden and disappearing behind the trees. He witnessed that, absorbed in the love of God, Gauranga, the moon of Navadvip, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had a golden complexion. Gaura means a very good skin complexion is called Gaura Varna. That's why Divine Mother Uma gets a name Gauri. Parvati's another name is Gauri. Gauri means one who had a very beautiful color of the skin, Gaura Varna or golden color. So Shiva is also called Gauranga. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also had the name Gauranga because of his beautiful skin. So Gauranga, the moon of Navadvip, was proceeding with a slow gait in the center with his chief companion Nityananda and Advaita on either sides, and surrounded by a dense multitude, so many devotees following him. He was dancing in a slow gait and taking the name of the Hari and leading that Sankirtan. So Sri Ramakrishna is having that vision. So it started from Panchavati and going towards the gate of Dakshineshwar. All of them in that Sankirtan were in a state of spiritual inebriation, intoxication produced by God love. People think that only alcohol and drugs may produce some sort of inebriation. No, in reality, the inebriation, the intoxication, the God love, the ananda bliss is within us. These are all external things which brings those things in a small way, but real joy is within us in the form of God. So this is the correct way of bringing out joy of God by singing Sankirtan, doing meditation, doing his taking his name japa. So then voluntarily, in a natural way, those joy will come out. But all these intoxicants like alcohol, drugs, and other things, they bring in that the same bliss of God in an unnatural way, but it will damage the whole system. But on the contrary, this Sankirtan, prayer, meditation brings out the joy which is within you, but it will not damage your system. Rather, it will increase your health. So that is the difference between the joy which you get, the inebriation, the intoxication which you get from those unnatural things like alcohol, drugs, and other medicines. But here it is a very natural way and in a systematic and trained way. So all the people were in a state of spiritual inebriation produced by God love, some expressing the bliss of their heart by losing control over themselves, and others by wild ecstatic dances. The crowd was so great that it looked as if there was no end to the number of people there. A few faces in that wonderful Sankirtan got impressed on the canvas of Sri Ramakrishna's memory in bright colors. So Sri Ramakrishna could see some people whose faces got imprinted in his mind so deeply that when some of the people afterwards came to his life, he could recognize they were all in that Sankirtan of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A few faces in that wonderful Sankirtan got impressed on the canvas of Sri Ramakrishna's memory in bright colors. When he saw them coming as his devotees, shortly after he had had that vision, Sri Ramakrishna arrived at the certain conclusion that they had been the companions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a previous life. So that way, Divine Mother would show so many visions by which Sri Ramakrishna could know what group of devotees were they. So, did they belong to the devotional class, or did the devotees who are coming to him they belong to the Vedanta, the yoga group, or the Divine Mother Shakta group? So he could advise them in their own way. So different people would come to him. He would never force any thought or ideas on any of them. He used to understand what was their stages of evolution and accordingly give instructions and teachings so that they could move forward in their spiritual life in the way they are moving, the natural way, wherever they are, whichever state of the spiritual evolution they are, from there he would give a push and they would move forward in a smooth and natural way. He would never disturb anybody's faith. That is the speciality of Sri Ramakrishna. That's why any people of any group, any denomination coming to Sri Ramakrishna, they would feel Sri Ramakrishna as their own. They would never disturb their faith. So, a few faces in that wonderful Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got impressed on the canvas of Sri Ramakrishna's memory in bright colors when he saw them coming as his devotees. Shortly after he had had the vision, Sri Ramakrishna arrived at the certain conclusion that they had been the companions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in their previous lives. Shortly after he had had that vision, Sri Ramakrishna went to Kamarpukur and to Hriday's native village, Sihor. Puloi Sham Bazar is situated a few miles away from the latter place. Hearing that there were many Vaishnavas, the followers of Vishnu, especially the Gaudiya Vaishnavism. because there are different schools of Vaishnavism. Just like Ramanujacharya's Vaishnavism is called Sri Vaishnavism. So, though they follow Vishnu or Narayana, they have certain rules to follow, and their philosophy will vary a little. Then the followers of Madhvacharya are called Dvaitins. So they also follow the Madhva Vaishnavism. Likewise, there are different schools of Vaishnavism too, though they all follow Vishnu, or they are the followers of Narayana, they worship Narayana and his avatars. You go to Rajasthan, Gujarat, there are different types of Vaishnavism there. Dvaita, Dvaita, Vallabhacharya, their followers do a different Vaishnavism. If you go to UP, Bihar, then there we have the Vaishnavism followers of Tulsi Das. So they follow Ramachandra, and their way of thinking devotion is a little different. Like that, all over India, if you go to different parts of the country, there'll be a little different Vaishnavism. That's why here the Vaishnavism which is mentioned here is Gaudiya Vaishnavism, which was in vogue in the northeastern part of India, like Assam, Orissa, then West Bengal, East Bengal. Later on, when the India got divided into Bangladesh, that is East Pakistan, so they forcibly converted most of the Hindus there. Otherwise, there were a lot of Hindus there too. So their Vaishnavism was also very popular. So now, Sri Ramakrishna, when he went there, he came to know many Vaishnavas lived in the village nearby, that Hriday's native place Shihor. Hearing that there were many Vaishnavas there who filled the place with the bliss of Sankirtan every day. So there, because a lot of Vaishnavas lived in that village, they used to do Sankirtan. Sankirtan means, what is the difference between Kirtan, Sankirtan, Bhajan? So suppose you sing alone, that is your own bhajan. If you sing with a group of people, that you call it as satsang. Suppose people come out to the streets, take the musical instrument, gather together and singing the song of the Lord, go on walking, dancing on the streets in the town or the village, that is called Sankirtan, Nagara Sankirtan. So they will take drums, they will take musical other instruments like cymbals, harmonium, and they will go on playing the music and singing the song of the Lord and dancing on the street, taking the name of the Lord, singing. They go on walking, dancing. So that is called Nagara Sankirtan or Sankirtan. Together, they take the name of the Lord. So in that village, people used to do that Sankirtan every day. So all the Vaishnavas, the followers of Vishnu, they used to do this Sankirtan with the bliss of Sankirtan every day. So only if you see that, it's very difficult to see here that kind of Sankirtan. If you go to India, when many occasion comes like that, the musicians will gather together, and when the drums and the cymbals, I have heard that in Dakshineshwar, the beautiful, you can hear that in waves from far off, you can sit there and hear the group of people singing Hari, Hari Bol, Vishnu, Govinda, Narayana, Hari, all those songs will be repeated in different tunes. And the cymbals, the drums, the bass voice of the drums, the high pitch, tenor and tone, the treble of the cymbals, the singing will create a sort of bliss, and that it will come in wavy motion if you are away from the Sankirtan. If you are in the Sankirtan, the joy is different. If you are out of the Sankirtan and watching that bliss, the wave of bliss coming out of that is a different thing. So if you see that, if you hear that, only then you will enjoy it. Here, maybe it's very difficult in South Africa to do that. You should get the permission. Even to light agarbatti, people may object here. If you do havan, there may be objection too. So many objections are there. So it's very difficult to do Sankirtan and other things. Okay, let us see. The ISKCON followers do that once in a year or twice in a year, or getting the permission. That is a different thing. But in India, if you go to some places, you can see that even today, at different part of the time, at different festival, during some other season, there will be this Sankirtan. If you join that Sankirtan, if you are inside that Sankirtan, the joy, the inebriation, the intoxication is something different. If you are away from that, watching it, then there will be bliss, that waves coming out. So if you are caught in that bliss, that joy is something different. Only when you immerse in that bliss, all this bliss of intoxication, alcohol, and drugs are, it will pale into insignificance or nothing when compared to the joy of that name of the Lord being sung in Sankirtan. The bliss you get out of it is something incomparable. So to go and hear and you have to participate, then only you'll get that joy. So now Sri Ramakrishna had gone to Shihor, and when he came to know that there were many Vaishnavas there in that village who filled the place with the bliss of Sankirtan every day, he had a desire to go there and listen to it. So Ramakrishna also had some desires, like listening to Sankirtan, then seeing some devotees, having the darshan of some deity. So all these were the desire of Sri Ramakrishna. So Mother, Divine Mother would fulfill all those desire. Now Sri Ramakrishna had a desire to hear the Sankirtan of these Vaishnavas in that village. So now Ramakrishna had an opportunity to go and participate in that Sankirtan, the joy of music. The village of Belte stood near Shama Bazar. Natavara Goswami, so the householder there, who are very deep, devoted Vaishnavas, who also come from the lineage of the parampara, the lineage of tradition of this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they get the surname because of their lineage or the genetics, genes pool. They are coming from that Vaishnava, great Vaishnava gurus. They are called Goswamis. So it gets the name from cow, go, because cow is considered very auspicious in India. Every name will be given with the name of cow. So it is Goswami. So every name will be associated with cow. So now Gotra. So Gotrahi. Again, there comes the cow, the cow shed or the shelter to the cow. Everywhere you will see Gavaksha, Go, Gotra, Goswami, Gorakshanata. So like that, everything is associated with a cow, the names. So here Goswami is that Vaishnava family. They get that surname. So here was one such Vaishnava or the follower of Vishnu who had the name Natavara Goswami of that village, had met Sri Ramakrishna before. And so he invited him to sanctify his home with the dust of his feet. So in India, this is a practice. They feel that people who are devotional by nature, great yogis, great devotees of God, who have done a lot of good work, if they come and if the feet dust fall in their house or on the body of that person, they get purified. So with the intention of getting the foot dust of those great people, they invite them to their house, where they will take them everywhere through the house. So the tanmatras, the vibration from that great soul will purify that house. That's why now this person knew about Sri Ramakrishna. He felt if he would come, Sri Ramakrishna would come to his house. What for? To so that his house would be sanctified. His home would be sanctified with the dust of Sri Ramakrishna's feet. We should also see that usage in India is common. The dust of the feet of the Lord, the dust of the feet of the great saints. So about his Guru Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda used to tell. When somebody praised Sri Vivekananda, telling that what a great world conqueror he was, he conquered the whole world with his spirituality, then with great humility, natural humility, Swami Vivekananda replied that he his greatness was nothing. Sri Ramakrishna could produce, his Guru Ramakrishna could produce thousands and thousands of Vivekananda from his foot dust. Just by his foot dust, not one, thousands and thousands of Vivekananda could be produced. That was the humble words of Swami Vivekananda about his Guru. So now you can see in India, especially in spiritual life, they have a great place for the foot dust of the Guru, of the great saints, of great Avatara Purushas. So here, the Natavara Goswami of that village, see, Belte, the village Belte, Shambazar, near Shama Bazar, Natavara Goswami of that village had met Sri Ramakrishna before, and he invited him to sanctify his home with the dust of Sri Ramakrishna's feet. Accompanied by Hriday, Sri Ramakrishna went to his house, lived there in his house for 7 days, and enjoyed the bliss of Sankirtan with the Vaishnavas of Shama Bazar. Being acquainted with Sri Ramakrishna, Ishan Chandra Malik of that place invited Sri Ramakrishna with great respect to his house to share the bliss of Sankirtan there in his house too. The Vaishnavas were very much attracted towards Sri Ramakrishna, and on seeing Sri Ramakrishna's wonderful moods during Sankirtan, the Vaishnavas themselves were attracted to Sri Ramakrishna. As I told you, any denomination, any group of people, the moment they used to come to Sri Ramakrishna, they used to feel Sri Ramakrishna was their own, and Ramakrishna would love them the most. So that would be the feeling. So Sri Ramakrishna's nature was such that he could adapt to any group or denomination of people and give advice and sing songs of that particular mood and whatever they used to like. So anybody would come to the presence of Sri Ramakrishna, they could feel that that is Sri Ramakrishna was their own. So now here the Vaishnavas are generally orthodox, and also most of the Vaishnavas are also little fussy in their behavior. They will not like other people into that group. They'll chase them away. So here the Vaishnavas were also very much attracted towards him. And on seeing him, his wonderful moods during Sankirtan, they were very much attracted to Sri Ramakrishna. The news of his mystic moods spread all around, not only in Shama Bazar, but also to Ram Jivanpur, Kishanganj, and other village far and near. So the news spread that a great soul has come. He will go to different moods during Sankirtan. He dances with joy like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the name of Sri Ramakrishna spread in all those villages. So the news of his mystic moods spread all around, not only in Sham Bazar, but also to other neighboring villages like Ramjivanpur, Kishanganj, and other villages far and near. Then came from those villages parties of Sankirtan with a view to enjoying divine bliss with him. So the moment they came to know that such a great person has come, they all took their musical instrument, all that group and parties, bhajan parties. So now, just like ants will clamor to the sweet or sugar or whatever, if there is any sweet, the ants or the bees will clamor if there is a flower. Those parties, those devotees from different villages far and near, they all came with their musical instruments, the bhajan parties, rushing to where Sri Ramakrishna lived nearby in that village. Then came from those villages parties of Sankirtan with a view to enjoying divine bliss with Sri Ramakrishna. That made the village very much crowded, and Sankirtan, that is the bhajans with that singing and dancing, went on night and day, not only during the daytime. So people started getting attracted and coming continuously. Each different parties, bhajan parties would come to that village. So they thought now they had an opportunity to sing and dance with Sri Ramakrishna. But the other party will come from another village. They think they have their opportunity now. So Sri Ramakrishna had to sing and dance and go to that samadhi and enjoy that the whole day, not only day, during night time. So such Sankirtan, the crowds and the singing, the bhajan, the dancing went on night and day. There was then a general talk that there had come a devotee of God who died and revived many times a day. What is that? Who died? Died means he used to go to samadhi. When he used to go to deep samadhi, highest yoga, he's just like a dead man. So the word spread that the devotees there who were coming, they couldn't understand what that samadhi was. So they used to speak. Then there was a general talk that there had come a devotee of God who died and revived many times a day. People forgot food, sleep, and they were so anxious to see Sri Ramakrishna. People forgot everything, their families, their villages, their works, their farming, their other household work, their wife, their children, their husband, everything were forgotten. They started rushing towards Sri Ramakrishna. That was the attraction, village after village, troop after troops, bhajan parties. They're coming day and night. Not only they have forgotten their own kith and kin, wife and children and husband, work and everything, they had forgotten even their food, their daily necessities, sleep, and anxious to see Sri Ramakrishna. So there was so much of people, they couldn't see Sri Ramakrishna. It was so difficult. Everywhere, crowd and crowd. The streets were filled. So many people climbed up trees, house rooftops, and got up to the rooftops to have just a vision of Sri Ramakrishna. Can you imagine? Just you have to visualize. You just go into your within and just visualize these things. What how it would have the old Indian villages, the street there, no tar road or the metal road. It is just the dust road, dusty roads there, just kacha road. That's all. And trees, the old thatched roofs, the old type of village you can assume, and so many trees there. People are standing on the tree, climbing the tree on the rooftops. So much of crowd everywhere. They're trying to watch. They want to have a glimpse of Sri Ramakrishna. Just imagine how Sri Ramakrishna is dancing and singing prayer everywhere. So you can simply enjoy that. The bliss, you can also be part of that bliss. People forgot food, sleep, and anxious to see Sri Ramakrishna. They climbed up trees and got on the roofs of the houses. Thus, for 7 days and nights, there flowed a tide of celestial bliss there. So, all around, people started gathering, hundreds of people everywhere. The streets are filled, and everywhere the sound of the singing of the cymbals, the singing, the Harinam Sankirtan, Haribol, Haribol, the music. the drums, the coal, it's called coal. Then all that things they were hearing everywhere in that village. Thus, for 7 days and nights, there flowed a tide of celestial bliss there. People became mad. Were mad with the singing of the Lord's name, as it were, to see Sri Ramakrishna and to touch his feet. So now people were mad too. They were rushing. They wanted to see Sri Ramakrishna. They wanted to touch his feet. The rush was so great that the master Sri Ramakrishna could not find time even for his bathing, to take bath, or even to take food. Sri Ramakrishna could not find time to have his food or bath or anything. His daily necessities were neglected to save him from the strain. So Hriday felt now Sri Ramakrishna is to be saved from this crowd. So Ramakrishna is to be fed. He was to be given bath. So it was just like a mother. Hriday is to protect Ramakrishna, to save Sri Ramakrishna from the strain of the Sankirtan singing. No food, no sleep, no bath. Hriday fled him, took him away with him secretly to his native place, secretly to his native place, Sihor, from the back door of the house through the gardens. He took him secretly to Sihor, his own native place. And that mart of joy will the people leave Sri Ramakrishna. So when they came to know Hriday had taken away the master to Sihor, that crowd followed there too. The mart of joy. Thus they followed them too. And gradually it came to an end. Ishan Chaudhary, Natavara Goswami, Ihan Malik, Srinath Malik, and others of the village of Shama Bazar and their descendants mention that event even today. So now, people who had seen that, now this is being recorded by one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, that is Shardanandaji Maharaj. So he went to all those villages. People were leaving who had seen that mart of joy, that Sankirtan and other things which Sri Ramakrishna did there in those villages. So the singing, the dancing, and everything. So all those people, Shardanandaji Maharaj met, and he recorded what had happened there. How many people used to gather, how many people used to come from different parts, and what happened there. Everything was recorded by Shardanandaji Maharaj, by these people who lived in that village, yet who were all there. So Ishan Chaudhary, Natavara Goswami, Ihan Malik, Srinath Malik, and others of the village of Shama Bazar and their descendants mention that event even today and cherish great love and respect for Sri Ramakrishna. The master Sri Ramakrishna also became acquainted with Rai Charan Das, the famous Khol drum player of Kishanganj. So you should hear that Khol being played, then you will enjoy it. Otherwise, you cannot understand what is that. So Ramakrishna now became acquainted with one of the famous Khol player, drum player from Kishanganj. His name was Rai Charan Das. So even that sound, takuti takuti, or that one sound from the right side and the left side, the drum, just one sound can bring a feel of joy in your heart. Such is the beautiful sound of that khol. So as soon as that person, that is Rai Charan Das, he played on the khol, the moment he used to play that drum, Ramakrishna used to go to ecstasy, samadhi. The moment that drum player used to play this khol, just a little, the moment Sri Ramakrishna heard, he used to go to ecstasy, bhava samadhi. We were told of the above mentioned event partly by Sri Ramakrishna and partly by Hriday. We have been able to ascertain its date in the following way. A great devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, Mahendranath Pal, the physician of Alambazar, met Sri Ramakrishna after Keshav Chandra Sen had had the privilege of meeting him in 1875. Mahendranath Pal had informed us that his meeting with Sri Ramakrishna took place just after Sri Ramakrishna's return from Sihor, and that the master spoke to him on that occasion about the happenings at Puloi Sham Bazar. So these events must have taken place only after 1879, the date from which the chosen devotees of the master began to come. So after this 1879, that is the year from which chosen devotees, all the direct disciple, other great householder disciples, started coming to Sri Ramakrishna after this year. So the date from which the chosen devotees of Master began to come. Only Swami Yogananda Yogain, whose house was situated in very close proximity to Dakshineshwar temple, might have been to Sri Ramakrishna earlier. But all other devotees started coming to Sri Ramakrishna after 1879. Swami Vivekananda came to him in 1881. Narendra. Swami Vivekananda, whose earlier name, pre-monastic name was Narendra, he came to Sri Ramakrishna in 1881. The death of Jagadamba Dasi, that is Rani Rasamani, sorry, not Rani Rasamani's daughter. The death of Jagadamba Dasi took place in January 1881. About 6 months after this, Hriday foolishly, he did a mistake. What did he do? Worshipped the feet of Mathur Babu's granddaughter of very tender age. Her father, apprehending that evil might befall the child, became very much annoyed and he dismissed Hriday. So he took away, Hriday was chased out of Dakshineshwar. So that incident happened during that period, that is 1881. About 6 months after this, Hriday foolishly worshipped the feet of Mathur Babu's granddaughter of very tender age. Her father, the child's father, apprehending the evil might befall her child, became very much angry, annoyed, and dismissed Hriday from the work and also from Dakshineshwar. He was not allowed to stay. So now Hriday would not be there to serve Sri Ramakrishna. Now, after that, all the devotees started coming there and they started taking care of Sri Ramakrishna. So until I think the work, the duty of Hriday to look after Sri Ramakrishna was over. So Divine Mother displaced him from that place for some silly reason. So now he was dismissed from the service of Divine Mother Kali and also to stay in Dakshineshwar because of that foolish act of Hriday. So the father, apprehending that evil might befall the child, became annoyed and dismissed Hriday from the services of Kali temple, and he was not allowed to stay in the Kali temple, so he had to move out. Hriday was still with Sri Ramakrishna when his Pului Shambazar visit took place. That was the last. So the event under discussion must have taken place sometime in or before 1879. Here ends, so now Shardananda Maharaj is telling, here ends the Sadhaka Baba. So until Sri Ramakrishna was a sadhaka. What is meant by sadhaka? Sadhaka means spiritual aspirant. So there was a necessity of Sri Ramakrishna body to be taken care of very carefully because he would be in ecstasy and he would forget, he couldn't think about his body. So Hriday was there until then. So his necessity was finished, over. So after that, Divine Mother displaced him, removed him from that place. So now other devotees started coming, and now the opportunity was given to all those direct disciples, the householder disciples, all who were coming. They started serving Sri Ramakrishna. So Divine Mother made all these arrangements in such a nice way. So now Hriday was dismissed from work. Now Mother Sharda Devi, then the direct disciples who were then yet young disciples who were coming to Sri Ramakrishna, and all the other householder disciples, they could come stay in Dakshineshwar and they could serve Sri Ramakrishna. So here ends the Sadhaka Bhava. The spiritual practices of Sri Ramakrishna ends here. The period of the master's life as a spiritual aspirant practicing sadhana, spiritual practices, ends here. So Sadhaka Bhava ends here. That is what is told by Sharada Nandaji Maharaj. So, what is the next chapter which we are going to start or discuss from today in this Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master? It is as spiritual teacher. The next chapter is Ramakrishna as spiritual teacher, Guru, Guru Bhava. Until now, it was Sadhaka Bhava. He has collected so many spiritual practices, so many spiritual powers, so much of spiritual knowledge. Now it is the time to distribute that, give it to other people. Whatever you collect has to be given, distributed, isn't it? So now the time to distribute all that spiritual knowledge has come. So now the chapter under discussion is Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master, as the spiritual teacher, part 1. So the chapter we are going to now start is Sri Ramakrishna, spiritual teacher, part 1. There are part 2 and part 3 like that. So now we will start discussing the aspect of the life of Sri Ramakrishna where he will minister, he will help the spiritual aspirants to grow in spiritual life, distribute his knowledge, teach them how to grow spiritually. So this chapter is called Ramakrishna, the Great Master, as a spiritual teacher, part 1, Guru Bhav. It's called Guru Bhava. So there is a preface written by Shardanandaji Maharaj to this, the preface as the spiritual teacher. Now Shardanandaji Maharaj is preparing us for that chapter, the Guru Bhava. This is the third part of Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master. The events of Sri Ramakrishna's life from the time he completed his sadhanas, the spiritual practices, to the time he became well known to the public, have been in the main recorded in these chapters from now. We have not merely recorded them, but have also discussed, as far as possible, the moods that prompted and the purpose that guided his actions. For the human personality is a combination of body and the spirit, and consequently, the study of man's life history is imperfect if it is only a study of the events of his external life, excluding the meanings and purposes that guide it. When writing a biography or a history, the materialistic West exhibits its ability mainly in recording only events. That is a lacune of the Western type of thinking. So, what do the Western historians do? When writing a biography or a history, the materialistic West, the West which believes only in wealth and enjoyment, so the materialistic West exhibits its ability mainly in recording events, while the spiritualistic Hindu applies his mind to a careful depiction of the mental functions, his behavior, thoughts only. It is our conviction that a true biography is a combination of these two. So, Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling, it's our conviction that a true biography or history should be a combination of both, and that the actions of the gross body should be recorded with a view to unfolding the history of the mind, the thoughts. Moreover, we have discussed the extraordinary life of Sri Ramakrishna in the light of the scriptures in many places. So we have compared with the teachings, the with the scriptures too. what are the scriptures telling about such and such thing. So what does the Vedas tell? What is the Bhagavata telling? What is Bhagavad Gita telling? So everything, Puranas, all the scriptures is being compared together. So while the event of Sri Ramakrishna's life is being discussed, together with that, not only the happenings, the bodily changes in Sri Ramakrishna, the thoughts, the feelings, the events, the working in the mind, the actions done by that. Now it's also compared with the scriptures. What is scriptures? It is the spiritual experiences of the earlier seers, saints recorded is nothing but scriptures. So what have they left? What have they to tell? What are the scriptures telling us? So it is being compared. So the extraordinary life of Sri Ramakrishna. Here Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling, moreover, we have discussed the extraordinary life of Sri Ramakrishna in the light of the scriptures in many places. We have been led to study the unique functioning of Sri Ramakrishna's mind, his experiences, and his activities in comparison with those of great souls like Lord Krishna, Buddha, Shankaracharya, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu of India, and of Jesus Christ and others of other countries too. The Master said to us in unambiguous language again and again. Sri Ramakrishna is told to us, Shardanandaji Maharaj is recording. So, Master said to us in unambiguous language again and again that the one, now you have to note this very important statement told by Sri Ramakrishna again and again in an unambiguous, no ambiguity, no confusion, clarity with clarity. What is that? The Master Sri Ramakrishna said to us, that is the direct disciples and other devotees, in an unambiguous language, not only once, again and again, that the one who in the past, the one who in the past became Rama, Ramachandra, Lord Ramachandra, and Krishna, Lord Krishna, in the Dwapara Yuga, Lord Ramachandra in the Treta Yuga, is showing his own body. Ramakrishna used to tell, in this sheath now. Used to call his body as a sheath. So, the one who in the past became Rama and Krishna is in this sheath now. The same Godhead, that is Gadadhara Vishnu, who is taking all these forms. So he's mentioning to that the one who in the past became Rama and Krishna is in this sheath, in this body, showing his own body now. And that the scriptural experiences of this, the spiritual experiences of this, meaning himself, have gone beyond recorded in the Vedas and the Vedanta. Another important statement of Sri Ramakrishna is the spiritual experiences of this, meaning himself, have gone beyond those recorded in the Vedas and Vedanta. As a matter of fact, in discussing impartially, as far as possible, the life of Sri Ramakrishna, established in Bhavamukha, as I told you many times, Bhavamukha means staying on the threshold, keeping a lamp on the wall which is separating two rooms, so that lamp will shine or it will give light to both the rooms. Likewise, Bhavamukha, Divine Mother used to tell Ramakrishna to stay in Bhavamukha. What are the two compartments here? This world and the world of God, Satchit Ananda. So Sri Ramakrishna was made to stay in between on the threshold, whereby he could be in touch with this created world. So also he's in touch with the divine, that is the Satchit Ananda, the Lord, Nirakara, Nirguna, formless, attributeless God, the world of God, Turiya, Turiya Avastha, and this is Jagrat Avastha. So he was made to stay by Divine Mother in touch with both. So in the threshold, that is called Bhavamukha. So now we have been constrained to confess that such an extraordinary life in the spiritual world has never been seen before. So, what were the two things recorded here, which Ramakrishna used to tell in unambiguous language? The Master said to us, Shardananda Maharaj is telling in unambiguous language again and again, that the one who in the past became Rama and Krishna is showing his own body in this sheath now, and that the spiritual experiences of this, meaning himself, have gone beyond those recorded in the Vedas and the Vedantas. As a matter of fact, in discussing impartially, as far as possible, the life of Sri Ramakrishna established in Bhavamukha, we have been constrained to confess that such an extraordinary life in the spiritual world has never been seen before. Again, when we take account the full implication of the new truth, what is the new truth? That is, as many faiths, so many paths. We have to take into account the full implication of the new truth, which is not recorded earlier, which the spiritual experience of Sri Ramakrishna, how is it, how has it gone beyond the earlier teachings? As many faiths, so many paths. So this was discovered and proclaimed by Sri Ramakrishna after actually following every faith and path founded by the incarnation of the past. We are inevitably led to accept him as a summation of all the incarnation who have gone before. So Ramakrishna practiced all the paths, all the religions, all the teachings given by the incarnation, the saints, by different scriptures, Vedas, Vedantas, Vaishnavism, Shaktism, everything, Christ, Islam, Buddhism, and experienced that in his own life and gave this wonderful truth. What is that wonderful truth which has not been given earlier? So that's why it has been told that the visions of Sri Ramakrishna has gone beyond even the earlier scriptures. As many faiths, so many paths. As many faiths, so many paths. That means every path lead to the same God. Whichever path you may take, if you do it sincerely, it will take you to the same one God. It will lead you to one God. So as many faiths, so many paths. In Bengali, Ramakrishna used to tell, Joto mot, tato pot. Joto mot, as many faiths. Tato pot, so many. Path means paths. Discovered and proclaimed by Sri Ramakrishna after actually following those faiths. It is not just the words, reading books, gaining some knowledge from somebody else. He literally followed every bit of the teaching. So, actually, following those faiths founded by the incarnation of the past, we are inevitably led to accept him as the summation, the totality of all the incarnations who have gone before. Now you can understand why Sri Ramakrishna is called Sarvadeva Devi Swarupa Avatara Varishtha. All those words coined by Swami Vivekananda Doesn't mean that Sri Ramakrishna is greater than somebody or lesser than somebody, but he has followed all the ideals, all the teachings of all the earlier avatars and saints, realized that is in his own life, all the ideals, and then given this essence of it. So the summation, the totality of all the incarnation who have gone before, the more we have studied Sharadanandaji Maharaj, who was well equipped in the Western science, history, everything. So he was a very well educated person who is writing this biography. So he's telling the more we have studied the unprecedented holy life of Sri Ramakrishna, the greater has grown our conviction that he is the unique product of the universal and eternal spiritual ideas of Vedas, the totality of their essence. I'll repeat it again. Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling the more we have studied the unprecedented holy life of Sri Ramakrishna, the greater has grown our conviction that he is the unique product of the universal and eternal spiritual ideas of the Vedas and the totality of their essence. Ramakrishna used to tell again and again, I have not come to break but to make. So he's just followed the whole teaching of Vedas and given something more as a complement, a complementary extra from there. So everything is complementary to the earlier religions, the Vedas, and all other religions. When revered Swami Vivekananda had preached Sri Ramakrishna's ideas and the public became eager to know the facts of his life, many people published many accounts of him. When Swami Vivekananda made the teachings, the ideals of Sri Ramakrishna popular, he preached Sri Ramakrishna's ideas, and the public became now eager to know the facts of his life. So naturally, many people published many accounts of him, but none of them pointed out clearly the hidden relation that existed between that unique life and the Vedic or eternal religion. Most of the people, what they do is they want miracles. They want to sensationalize things. So they will record only such things and portray only those things. But here, Sharadanandaji Maharaj is telling they have made a thorough investigation, not only in the ordinary sense, but in a deeper sense, and then written this book that is the Leela Prasanga or the Great Master, which we are now studying, which we are discussing. So Sharadanandaji Maharaj is telling that when many people came to became eager to know the facts of Sri Ramakrishna's life, many people published many accounts of him, but none of them pointed out clearly the hidden relation that existed between that unique life and the Vedic or eternal religion. Consequently, from a study of these books, an impression has grown in the minds of the people that Sri Ramakrishna was a man cut off from the tradition of the eternal of the Hindu religion and has left behind him a particular sectarian doctrine of his creation. So, consequently, from a study of these books, an impression has grown in the minds of people that Sri Ramakrishna was a man cut off from the tradition of the eternal Hindu religion and has left behind him a particular sectarian doctrine of his creation. Further, many of those stories contains errors regarding the life history of Ramakrishna. Those people who have recorded it, just when they saw that there was a necessity, many people started recording so many things, only miracles and only other sensational things. So that has led to the conclusion that Sri Ramakrishna has done another sect. That is not true. Further, many of those stories contains errors written by other people, not doing any research. They just simply unscientifically recorded so many other incidences just to sensationalize things. So they contain errors regarding the life history of Sri Ramakrishna and lack appreciation of the real import of the events of his life and their relationship with the historical past and the future trends in order to meet to a certain extent that demand of the public and to correct the mistaken notions we have following in the footsteps of Swami Vivekananda attempted in this book, The Great Master, Sri Ramakrishna or Leela Prasanga, we have attempted in this book a description of that unique life as it presented itself to us with a view to depict that exalted state of Sri Ramakrishna's mind, bhava, the realization of a little of which has made Swami Vivekananda and others, including ourselves, that is Shardanandaji Maharaj, dedicate their lives at the lotus feet of Sri Ramakrishna. Let the reader know that if even a small part of the noble idea of Sri Ramakrishna's life, unintelligible to ordinary man, has been correctly portrayed in this book, it is due to his greatness, Sri Ramakrishna's greatness. And whatever defects are or incompleteness is observed, it is due to our lack of proper understanding. So, with a humble attitude, Shardananda Maharaj is telling whatever if the things are correctly mm, shown to the public, that is the grace of Sri Ramakrishna and the speciality of the life of Sri Ramakrishna. If there is any lacunae, if there is any problem, or if it is not fulfilling, that is our weakness. So, if there is anything correctly portrayed in this book, it is due to his greatness, Sri Ramakrishna's greatness. And whatever defect or incompleteness is observed, it is due to our lack of proper understanding and power of exposition. We intend to present to the reader later a description of the first and the last part of the precious life of Sri Ramakrishna. In writing this biography, the author began with this part third first, then he wrote in succession part fourth, second, first, and fifth. That's why he's telling this in the preface. Before we start, we intend to prefix the verses and the aphoristic article by Swami Vivekananda, where discussed therein the hidden relationship of eternal Vedic religion with the unfathomable life of Sri Ramakrishna abiding in Bhavamukha. So, the life of Sri Ramakrishna was introduced by Swami Vivekananda by this aphorism or the stotra. So, that stotra has been given here, comparing with the older religion. Now, you can see before we start, we intend to prefix the verses, the stotra written by Swami Vivekananda about Sri Ramakrishna, the article, aphoristic article by Swami Vivekananda, who had discussed therein the hidden relationship. So in that is the hidden relation of eternal Vedic religion with the unfathomable life of Sri Ramakrishna abiding in Bhavamukha. And what is that? I think we will be playing that always. Yesterday, I don't know, by grace of God, I got that stotra sung by one of our Swamis in a beautiful way. If Naresh can put that after the thing, the same thing is coming here. I don't know why. I too got that on my WhatsApp and I shared with Naresh to play it here anytime possible. And now the same stotra written by Swami Vivekananda is being told by Shardananda Ji Maharaj here. I've given it to Naresh, the one who is handling this thing. So if possible, please play after this the same thing. Achandalat apratihataro. Achandala prahati apratihataro yasya prema pravaha. These are the Sanskrit aphorism written by Swami Vivekananda on the life, connecting that with the eternal religion and who Ramakrishna really is. What is that? Achandala, from Chandala, the lowest type of people here on this earth are called Chandala. From Chandala onwards, Apratihatara, Apratihatarayo, Yasya Prema Pravaha, whose Prema, the love of Sri Ramakrishna, which was flowing from the lowest caste to the highest caste, the people who may be high or low or anybody, rich or poor, which went equally on everybody. Lokatito apyaha na jahau lokakalyana margam त्रैलोक्ये अपि अप्रतिम महिमा जानकी प्राणबंधो भक्त्या ज्ञानम वतवर वपुः सीतया यो हि रामः स्तब्धीकृत्य प्रलय कलितं वाह वोत्थं महान्तं हित्वा रात्रिं प्रकृति सहजं अंधतामिश्रमिश्राम गीतं शांतं मधुरमपि यः सिंहनादं जगर्ज सोऽयं जातः प्रथित पुरुषो रामकृष्णं इदानीम. This is the aphoristic stotra depicting and connecting the life of Sri Ramakrishna with the eternal religion Vedas. So I am now going to read what is the meaning of this aphorism written by none other than Swami Vivekananda. It's a mystical composition. It's not just writing some poetry, but it is coming from within. Swami Vivekananda, from deep meditation or deep inner understanding, is giving out that. Now I'll read the meaning. The one born as Rama, of incomparable greatness in all the three worlds, who was the very life of Janaka's daughter Janaki, Mother Sita, who, though himself beyond the world, lo, did not give up doing good to this world, the current of whose love ever flowed unchecked down even to the lowest Chandala. Generally, the people who are doing the work of cremating, burning the bodies, digging the ground, and doing such work, they are deemed in India to be the Chandalas, lowest type of work. So, even that person got the love of Sri Ramakrishna, who was considered as Chandala, the current of whose love, Sri Ramakrishna's love, ever flowed unchecked down even to a Chandala, and whose body of supreme knowledge was enveloped by devotion in the form of Sita, the one who was born as Krishna too, who sang the song of Bhagavad Gita, sweet and tranquil, yet deep as the roar of a lion, suppressing the great cataclysm, tumult raised in the battlefield of the Kurukshetra, and destroying the innate and deep seated darkness of ignorance. That ever renowned divine personality is now born as Sri Ramakrishna. So the above is a translation of the two Sanskrit stanzas composed by Swami Vivekananda. So it is also there in the complete works. The word Shastra denotes the beginningless and endless Veda. It is this Veda only that is capable of teaching religion. What is meant by Veda? Veda means not some sectarian book. Veda means Gnana Rashi, the ocean or collection of knowledge. Vedas means the totality, heap, the mountain of knowledge. That's all. Gnana Rashi. The Puranas and other books are denoted by word Smriti. They have authority only in so far as they have followed the Vedas. Truth is of two kinds: that which is perceivable by five senses of human beings and is deducible therefrom by inference, and that which is perceivable by the subtle powers arising from yoga. The knowledge acquired by the first means is called science, and that acquired by the second means is called Vedas. The beginningless and endless mass of infinite knowledge called the Vedas is eternally existent. The Creator Himself is creating, maintaining, and destroying this world with the help of the Vedas, with the knowledge of the Vedas. The person in whom that power of intuition is manifested is called a Rishi, Siya, Mantra Drashtara, and the infinite knowledge that he comprehends through that power is called the Vedas. The attainment of this Rishihood or seership, consisting in the immediate knowledge of the Vedas, is the true realization of religion. Until the aspirant's life open out to it, religion for him is mere meaningless words, and he cannot be said to have set his foot on the threshold of religion. The authority of the Vedas holds good irrespective of time, place, and person. That is, its authority is not confined to a particular time, country, or person. The Vedas alone sets forth the universal religion. Although a little of that infinite knowledge is to be found in the Itihasas, that is the Mahabharata, Puranas, so there are so many Puranas, etc., of our country, and in the religious books of foreign countries, yet, as the first complete and unaltered collection of the entire body of the eternal knowledge, this mass of words that is called Vedas, compiled into four books called the Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharvana Veda, Sama Veda. So the books called Vedas, as well as the Aryan, as well known to the Aryans, is worthy of occupying the highest place in all respect, of being adorned by the whole world, and of being the ultimate proof of the truth of all scriptures, indigenous or alien. Regarding the mass of words called the Vedas, discovered by the Aryans, it must also be understood that that part alone of it, which is not Atharva Veda, eulogy, or Aitihya tradition, or otherwise empirically known as knowable, is the Vedas. This mass of words is divided into two parts, namely that relating to the knowledge, that is the Upanishads, the Vedanta, and that relating to the work, that is the first part of the Vedas, Veda Purva. As a ritual of the Vedas and their result described in the work portion exist for all time in the domain of the Maya. They are subject to transformation according to the law of change with reference to time, place, persons, circumstances, etc. Yet, they have been and will be changed as social manners and customs depends on this work portion. They also do not they also do and will undergo change. Similarly, popular customs and manners too have been and will be accepted from time to time only in so far as they are not contrary to the scriptures and the conduct of the wise. One of the main causes of the downfall of the Aryans is their subjection to such popular custom and manners as are contrary to the Vedas, to the conduct of the wise, and to the scriptures comfortable to the Vedas. The knowledge portion of the Vedas, otherwise known as the Vedanta, aided by selfless action, concentration of mind, devotion, and self knowledge, is eternally taking man across the ocean of Maya to the other shore of liberation, as it is not at all influenced by time, place, agency. It alone is the teacher of the universal religion. It alone is the teacher of the universal religion, a religion that is meant for all people, all countries, and all times. So now we will stop here with the discussion on the Hindu religion. We'll continue in our next class. So, whatever we are telling now is written by Swami Vivekananda about Sri Ramakrishna and also about Vedas, our scriptures. All that now I am reading here was by Swami Vivekananda. So, we will continue the same study in our next session. Until then, we will just meditate on the truths which we heard today. And now it's time for question and answer. If you have any questions, if you have any doubts, you can ask.
Pranam Maharaj.
Yes, Madhu, please tell.
Yeah, Maharaj. Yeah, in Ramcharitmanas, even Tulsidas says again and again throughout all those seven kandas,
Hmm,
it's impossible to tell about Rama, his life, his entire life.
hmm,
Similarly, I think whatever Shardananji Maharaj is also saying here,
hmm,
whatever effort they are making to portray the life of Sri Ramakrishna,
hmm.
it might not be complete, right, Maharaj? It's so difficult to explain,
Yeah,
portray.
can complete it by realizing it. You can do sadhana, realize the truth, ask Ramakrishna directly, see him face to face, and you can find it out. It's always like that. Nothing can be given completely,
Yes,
whether it is science, whether it is any subject, even food and everything. The mother can cook the food and give it to you. You have to eat it, you have to make the difficulty of eating it, taking it to your mouth, mixing it up with the dal and other things, rice, and putting it into your mouth, chewing it, then swallowing it, and then digesting it, and then assimilating it. Then there will be what do you call metabolism happening there, catabolism, anabolism, then absorption of the food into your this thing, the whole body, and get nourishment. So nobody can do that. We have to do that. So they can only show the direction. The great saints who have given this life can show you the direction. But we have to make the effort of realizing those truths in our life. You can, by doing japa and meditation and intense prayer, you can meet, you can talk to the Lord Himself and realize the truth for yourself. See what it is for yourself.
yes, Maharaj. Yeah, because yeah, all these books will only give us some direction, but
Yeah,
not explain
it's
in
like
total.
it is just like
Yes,
when you're going on the road, you will find the sign boards there. They can only show you the direction. You have to make the effort of driving or walking or going on a horse or whatever to reach
yes,
the
Maharaj.
destination.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, man. Any other questions, or shall we end the today's discussion with the prayer? If you don't have any questions, okay. ॐ प्रियतां पुण्डरीकाक्षः सर्वयज्ञेश्वरो हरिः तस्मिन् तुष्टे जगत्तुष्टम् प्रीणिते प्रीणितं जगत् हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु